Right, there we go.
Okay, we're rolling.
So we're rolling. So welcome everybody who's come to join us today. I'm Eight Red Trees Tarot, and I am with,
I'm the Soul Seller.
and we are here to do a little reading today based on, well, we were talking about doing one based on whether you're feeling stuck.
Yes, as we couldn't decide what
As
to
we
do
couldn't
a
decide
reading
what
on,
to
we're
do, we
doing
felt
one
really
on.
stuck. So we thought, well, when you don't know whether you should go forward, back, up, or down, and often one of the areas that gets, I think anyway, gets stuck is your chakras. We often get stuck in our chakras. The energy
Definitely,
doesn't
yes.
flow,
Yeah,
and we don't have that creativity to move us forward, and we feel quite stuck in ourselves. So we've asked, you throw it up to spirit, don't you, to see if they're happy for us to follow this road.
yeah, definitely. And I think we need to look for that inspiration, whether that's external inspiration with the cards, or whether it's that inner voice, or whether it's a combination of the two.
Of the
don't
two.
we?
And so we thought what we would do is start with the chakra deck, and we're going to shuffle this and pull out the significator card to see if that blends with what we're talking about.
Which chakra?
Which chakra
It'll
we
be
think
very, very interesting to see which chakra the deck is telling us that
it needs to work with and is stuck.
Definitely.
Right. So let's do this shuffle on here. Usually one falls out for me, and it's not happening
It's
today.
not
I'm going to
say,
if
you're
we're
waiting
stuck.
for.
Oh, no way.
We've just been looking at this card before we started. See, there's a reason.
There
is
a reason.
In the madness.
There is a reason.
So it's to do with the third eye, isn't it? It's to do with the intuition.
Third eye and intuition, and it's to do with, as we were saying, not pleasing everybody all the time, and well, according to
the book, it's about not pleasing everybody all the time, isn't it? And about the
it's the story of Periwinkle.
Yes.
Which I don't. Do you have your phone with you? Do you want to have a quick look? We're going to have a look at this story. In fact, yeah.
Because I've never heard of
this. And while you're looking that up, I will read for our listeners. So, according to the Tori Hartman Chakra Wisdom Oracle book, let me find it here.
Oh, it's sending me a load of links to the actual story.
Okay. This is about the fable of Periwinkle. Now, according to this reading in this book, this card signifies, in the fables, Periwinkle takes on a false self in which he imagines himself as far superior to those around him. He alienates those who care about him as he begins operating in a false idea of reality, trying to live his life as a star. He is unable to see the richness of community that is the legacy he has been given. So, neither one of us had heard of the story of Periwinkle.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of it. Right, so it's just the Periwinkle fable likely refers to the story The Sad Periwinkle by Layla Berg.
Okay.
Where a periwinkle snail is unhappy because it only eats wet, sloppy seaweed. Never chews on anything crunchy. Okay. I don't know.
Is that all that's coming up?
I've got another one about the sea snail. It's a sea snail now. Just let me go back because I've then put it in for the fable, but yes, we've got the snail again. Snail named Periwinkle on a journey of life and death. Another fairy tale involves a fairy princess and her guardian angel Periwinkle who breaks a curse. There's also a story of a young man named Emil who hides a serious illness from his friends.
So again, this is about.
It's about, okay, so if we're looking at the snail, I've got the synopsis is emphasizing the cycle of life and the beauty of even the smallest creatures. The story is designed to spark conversations about life and death with illustrations that complement the narrative.
Okay.
So that
Okay.
makes a little bit of sense. Well, I don't know, does it?
Well, it seems to be. I mean, you and I both read this card. Our gut feelings were you're looking at somebody, you're looking at the three people in this card are not happy.
Yeah, I read them as being closed off, as
They're
they've got
closed
the
off.
arms crossed across the solar plexus. So the one, they're not interacting with their intuition, and two, they're disempowering themselves, whether that's by not listening to their intuition or because they're closed off to the opportunities in life. I'm not, but with it being towards the third eye chakra, I'd say it was more towards the intuition side, but you know.
Being closed off with your intuition. And I was taking it that it's, again, I suppose it is about using your intuition, that it's, you can't please everyone all the time.
Yes.
And you're always, there's always going to be somebody who feels empowered by whatever you do. There's going to be someone who feels neutral by whatever you do. And there's going to be someone who dislikes it. And I find it interesting that it's three.
Yeah.
So it's like the for me, it's the three of the triangle, that it just goes round and round, and you're in like a love triangle with yourself, almost, with your intuition.
Of course, yeah.
And there's got to be a weighing. You've got to find a balance between it, because otherwise you just go what, but all the time, and you never stay still, which is when, this is what we're talking about. Actually, it does tie in with being stuck, because this is what we were saying earlier, that it's frustrating when in your head you're trying to make a decision about anything. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a specific decision.
And you're trying to please other people, so you're trying to think, what will people want to hear?
Yeah.
And what will people not want to hear? So rather than listening to your intuition and being guided about what to do, it's actually the fact that it's taking too much consideration into the opinions of other people is, and also it's the balance of giving and taking, isn't it? That, you know, you're giving time and energy to the reading, to any reading, but to this reading, and you're hoping that people will be able to take something from it.
Yeah. For me, I look at it, and it's interesting. See, this is why I wanted us to do these together. You're taking the view of the outside, that trying to please people on the outside. I see it as when you're stuck in your own head.
Yes, and
you're going round and round, so you're weighing everything up.
It's overthinking, isn't it?
And it's overthinking. You're weighing everything up, and you're like, okay, well, here's the pros and cons of this decision. Here's the pros and cons of this. Here's the pros, and none of them outweigh the other.
Yeah.
Where it is literally about finding stability in yourself to then take a leap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finding that stability, weighing it up, and realizing that if there is no good answer, sometimes you just have to take a leap, because you stagnate otherwise. And that the balance can go from being a nice, happy thing of restfulness to actually being a stagnating thing of, I'm not doing anything because I'm so afraid that whatever decision I make is going to be wrong, that I then don't make any. And then you freeze frame, and that you don't always know what the right decision is before you leap.
And to me as well, it's very much the fact that they've turned the back on everything is signifying the disconnection between themselves, and whether it's the universe, whether it's their guides, whether it's the higher self, but they've turned away from something.
Yes, this is it.
And so they're disconnected.
Where something is stopping you, because there is some part of your energetic body that is refusing to play ball.
Yeah.
There is some part of your energetic body that is saying, you either are ignoring me, and so I'm not going to play ball with you, or it's saying you've not been listening, or it's just that childlike part of you that's going, I just don't want to do this, and so I'm going to be a little bit of a idiot about it.
Yeah.
And how do you come to balance with that? How do you have those inner conversations with those parts of yourself?
You have to turn back towards that inner knowing. You have to turn back towards yourself, and whether that's going within, spending time and just contemplating, without the monkey mind jumping in and being like, well, no, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, do this. It's about what feels right, rather than what you think you should do.
But what
to
I was
me.
interested in, as we've been talking about this and kind of the direction this reading could take, is what happens when you don't get an answer? What happens when you go inside and you do that contemplation, and because you're at an impasse, you don't know how to step
Perhaps
forward?
sometimes then that's telling you that you do need to pause.
Yeah, be still and not do anything at this moment.
You just need to stand still and allow life to happen around this situation until you get that calling, that knowing, that sign.
The door opens somewhere.
The door opens somewhere. Because sometimes we just have to take that opportunity to just sit with something and just allow it to mature organically rather than forcing it.
Okay, brilliant.
To me,
I like it. I like it. Do you know, I haven't posted this one yet. I did a general reading and it was about, should I stay or should I go?
Oh, okay.
And it feels like that's what this is coming up with again.
Oh, wow.
Is, do we move or do we stand still?
Yeah.
And what is it? What's happening if are we trusting our intuition enough? Are we listening to that inner world? And by like the microcosm and the macrocosm. So if you're listening to the inner world, which is your microcosm, how is that reflecting in the macrocosm? That are there an awful lot of messages and signs in the macrocosm right now that we're ignoring to our detriment?
Yeah.
Because they don't suit the narrative we want to create for ourselves. And so we have this idea that I'll create my narrative and I'm going to follow this path, and that it's almost hubris of the humanity that I will create my own path and everything around must fall into
line with it,
rather than us realizing no, we're in the boat on the current.
Yeah, we just have to forge ahead, and a bit of chariot energy. We have to, sort of sometimes not be swayed by what's going on around us and just
move ahead
on our path, as long as we're not hurting anybody, and we're working within the highest intention. If we proceed on our path and that's not suiting everybody that's around us, sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes we have to let people and places and situations go because they're not, that's not to say they've not been right for us in the past, but it might not be the right thing for us
in this moment.
And that doesn't mean falling out with people. That sometimes it's just like retreating a little bit. Doesn't mean cutting them off forever. Sometimes it's just taking that step away.
And it's the flip side for me. We're really doing yin yang today, you and I, and I like it. I like this. This is I love, because I think this is really important. Is I was seeing it as sometimes we forge ahead again to our detriment because we ignore what's around us.
Yeah, so we don't pay forward.
We've often talked about the idea of intention versus attention, and that when your intention takes over and it becomes only about you with the chariot energy, right? Forging ahead, you stop paying attention, and there may be many signs coming from the macrocosm around you that is telling you move, stay, look up, look down. But because it doesn't suit the narrative you've got with your chariot forging ahead, you go, no, I'm going to ignore that. But that energy has to come back round. And that while we can then take the journey and forge ahead, it's, do we go through the thorn bramble strewn path, or do we take the nice open clear path that if we'd stopped and listened to what was going on around? And maybe this whole idea here is sometimes finding the nuance,
but sometimes going through the bramble path, which is a difficult path, we gain more from doing that.
We can do, absolutely, because you have to learn how to tend your wounds, don't you? And you have to learn how to be able to let go, and you have to learn how to be able to
all those things you find in that undergrowth that's not been cut back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very, very true. And I suppose then it comes down to, where is your inner eye at that point? Can you, by taking the harder road, are you grounded and balanced enough to be able to forge and cope with the traumas that will come to you? Or are you not at that point where if you forge that harder path, while there might be some amazing lessons, if they're going to damage you because your energetic battery can't process them. Do you know what I mean? So some people can take that harder path, and they have things happen to them that they are able to assimilate and contemplate on and learn from, and it makes them
some
grow.
people aren't ready for that.
Some people aren't ready, and they become bitter, and they become where they go. And I think we're seeing this a lot in the world right now, where people are saying it's either or, and if something doesn't suit their narrative, it's negative, it's bad.
Yes. There's no grey area, is there?
There's
at the
no
moment
grey area.
It's all very black and white, and we either believe this or we believe that, and sometimes neither side is necessarily right. Sometimes we need to come together, find that balance, the balance of the different ways, the balance of some form of conflict versus peace, because sometimes we need to have that conflict, we need to have to progress in that peaceful manner.
We need that energy. It's a creative, in a way, sometimes conflict can be actual creative energy if you use it right, because it galvanizes you.
But it's whether we get these power hungry leaders that it becomes beyond what the human rights are within it, and it becomes about money, and it becomes about territory, and it becomes about oil, and it becomes about other things, rather than just the human rights of people and allowing people to live in a way that we should all be able to live.
And I also think it comes circling it back round is trusting your own intuition, and people aren't. People are being told not to believe what they see or hear. We're being led down this idea that you aren't good enough to voice your intuition, if that makes sense. It's like this idea that how dare you assume that you know anything if you're not an expert in that subject. And so what it's making people do is become afraid to trust their intuition and go, look, I don't have any formal learning in this particular area, but my gut instinct from the information I'm being given tells me this. And perhaps people who have more information than you can then direct you and hone that and help you, but you need to feel confident enough in your intuition to voice your thought in the first place. And I feel that a lot of people, and I include myself in this, I'm just saying generalized, are feeling afraid to do that because a lot of judgment follows. Somebody makes a statement that they're in that moment is their opinion and their intuition, and then they're beaten down for it. They're castigated for it, and so they go, oh well, I just won't say anything in the future. And so you shut down your third eye because you're so afraid that if you don't get it perfectly right according to the external world, you're useless and worthless. And that's very, very dangerous, because suppressing that intuitive energy creates stagnation, which then becomes heat builds up and anger builds up and explosions build up. Do you know? And it's
we know this within ourselves when we try and suppress anger just on a personal level. That it will build up, and then there'll be a catalyst. Very often, something really small. It'll be, the thing that broke the camel's back.
The dishwasher won't open, or something fell off the counter,
somebody who's not really had anything to do with the fact of why you're feeling really angry will get the brunt of your anger. So it's it's healthy to release it. I mean, I've been listening to The Goddess Path by Kirsty Gallagher, and I was listening to part of it today when I was walking the dogs, and she was saying that anger is not a bad emotion.
No,
but we are not our anger. It's not part of who we are. It's just what we're experiencing at that time. And she was saying that we shouldn't be afraid to be angry. But we should honor that anger. And release it in healthy ways.
And understand that it's okay that when you feel that anger, it's a buildup of a sense of not feeling safe. It's a buildup where maybe a multitude of small instances have occurred where your inner nervous system is saying, I don't feel safe right now. I'm unhappy with the situation. I feel closed in perhaps, or I don't feel I'm on solid ground. And you're getting it tweaked. Your nervous system is being tweaked in all these tiny little ways that fill the cup.
Yes.
And then once that is flowing over, you get the explosion of anger. You get, because it's a release. It's a release of all that buildup, of all those tiny little cycles of fear that have occurred, where your nervous system's gone, what was that? Oh, back down. What was that? Oh, back down. Oh, I didn't like this. Oh, back down. And it's in tiny ways. But if you don't complete those cycles and have a nice, healthy reset, they remain until eventually they boil over and you have this explosion that comes out. And I think that when we're made to feel that, like we have this as readers, you know, there is the naysayers about all of this.
Oh, that you're
will say you're a fraud, and who's your,
charlatan.
you know, oh, it's your intuition. Who do you think you are to be saying things to people? When in fact, and I used to get caught by that. It used to sort of drive me to feel I shouldn't, you know, I stepped away from it for a long time.
I wouldn't be as open as I am now because, you know, I not that
You're afraid of the naysayers.
Yeah, I was afraid of being called a fraud and a charlatan because I'm me, and that's true.
Well, it's almost that, how dare you
transparent.
use your intuition to speak to somebody else who maybe really needs guidance at that moment. But that then comes down to what your motivation is for why you do these things. And I think that we are all our intuition, our unspoken communication is like 80% of our communicative ability. And this is how we thrive as a community and as a society. And I think if you are honest with people and you sit down and you allow that intuition to boil up in you and bubble up, not boil, that's the wrong word, bubble up in you, you will cotton on to lines of energy that allow you to speak to people that if you once you leave that moment, you'd be like, I don't know why I said that to you. I have no idea where that came from, but it just felt right to say it. That's how we practice our intuition. And the other person goes, I really needed to hear that. And then they tell you about something that you had no inkling about. But because you had that chance to just connect on an energetic level and allow that to just be, the words then form and come out, right? And that's what I think this reading is about, telling people, let's look at how we improve our sense of intuition. And maybe we're looking at what is blocking us from doing that right now.
Definitely. Shall I shuffle the tarot and
Yes,
we'll do 5 cards, and then do you want to shuffle the oracle? And
I'll shuffle the oracle, and this one we're going to do this at the end as a guidance.
Yeah, I think so.
So I'm going to move this up here. So I'll pull this one out first, because we're going to do a single card on the prism.
Do a single card with the prism oracle, and then with it we've got the Alice tarot as well, which is, that's interesting,
the gray area, surrender.
We're going to do we're going to do a 5 card spread with past influences, what's happening in the present. We're going to do hidden influences, advice, and the outcome.
Yes
Or potential outcome, because obviously we've all got free will. So let's see, what have we got? Okay,
the white cards in this deck are about a sense of stillness. If you end up having mostly white cards in a reading, moving towards a sense of calm, maybe something, this is again what we're talking about, calm, stillness, having the ability to look inside and find that peacefulness that allows the ego to just be.
So we've got all cups and pentacles.
There we go.
All cups and pentacles, which
so
is
the
really
balance between emotions and grounding.
Look at the base card. What's the foundation? The 10 of Swords.
10 of Swords,
which is all about, you know, I suppose it's about being vulnerable and putting yourself out there, and what's the worst that can happen,
because it's already happened.
It's already happened.
And if you think about the idea,
and it's just your thoughts. In the end of the day, it's swords. It's just your thoughts.
And it's interesting because when you think about the idea of the collective consciousness, that time is only linear because we've created it that way. What we're looking at is that time, the past, the present, and the future are all happening simultaneously.
They're all interchangeable.
So if you think of it like that, the worst has already happened. There's no point. Let your mind just roll. And I find it interesting that there's no major arcana.
There's no big
change. This is about your internal world. How do you handle the minutia to find a balance between being grounded in the creation of pentacles, the growth in pentacles, versus the cups where they can be quite flowing.
Isn't it interesting here as well? So we've got sort of past influences that, I think again they all merge into together really, the past and the present. But isn't it interesting that we've got the start of the Pentacles and the very end of the Pentacles?
Yeah.
So we've got the Ace and the King.
So you're planting all the way to your growth, your fruition.
And to me, I like the fact that this hand is coming across here. So the King here has got his pocket watch. He's got the Pentacle, which is a pocket watch, I believe, from looking at it.
I'm going to move
just move them into view a bit,
so they're into view a little bit better for people.
But look at this. So he's holding his hand out there. Just imagine if that was the King passing that wisdom back.
Yes. The cycle goes, it starts again. It begins, it grows, it comes to fruition, it hits its zenith, it ends, and it starts all over again. And that this is the idea of, it makes me think of, I was just reading about the Empress, and the idea of the Empress being, she's the extrovert to the Popess's introvert.
Yes.
The Popess is the idea of water and forming ideas and going deep and all the mysticism, but the Empress brings it onto the earth, right?
Yes.
She's the number 3 card for a reason. It's your creation, and through that creation there is always a cycle of birth, life, death, birth, life, death.
Yes.
And that includes,
and here we've got the sort of the birth of this, perhaps of this project, perhaps of this channel, this birth of this channel. And no, we're not claiming we're 3 videos together in. We're not claiming to have all the answers, but what it's almost like handing that wisdom out then.
Yes.
I mean, I've been reading for a long time, so it's like we're passing that wisdom or that experience, shall we say, because sometimes wisdom sounds a bit big-headed, doesn't it? So the benefit of experience, we're passing it to people who are perhaps earlier on in the journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
But not necessarily.
Because do you know what? It's
because we've all got different experiences. When I teach, I learn as much from my students as they learn from me, if not more. And
it's just about, again, this is kind of bringing it back to this. It's the idea of being afraid to speak your intuition because you're afraid of the community coming down on you, and it's actually fracturing community, and that we need to be creating more community now. And for those people watching this, in your life, is there a way that you can become more fulfilled within a community? And it doesn't matter what that community is. A community can be anything that allows flow to happen, that isn't stagnation, that allows creation to happen, whether that be in ideas, whether that be in like physical creations of things. It doesn't matter. It's the idea of bringing that cycle, that because Pentacles is about, to me, I always think of Pentacles as the farmer cards.
Yes,
in terms of it's
we've brought the emotion with the cups, we brought the spirit and the ambition and the intuition with the wands, and we brought the
mental acuity,
the logic, and everything else. What we've communicated it. I mean, in the Pentacles, we're bringing it into formation.
Absolutely,
that's why Pentacles really represent anything that's physical, whether that be health, whether it be home, whether it be work, as in the solid work that we do, the graft, or whether it be ourselves and family. So it's, but again,
and it's the sustaining card. It's how we sustain ourselves, because all the other decks are wonderful for more of an esoteric creation of yourself, all the spirit part of yourself. Whereas for me, the Pentacles are how you actually survive, in terms of, if you don't grow food, you don't eat. So it's it's what you take from all your inner intuition and understanding, and how do you produce something physical on the outside with that? Because
the Ace is your potential, and the King is almost like the mastery. Taking that,
This is your kindergarten. Here's your PhD. And he's gone. He's sitting there. He's got nothing to tell you anymore. He's got it all. But of course, the danger is if you don't then come back around to newness, you can fall into hubris here.
Yeah.
You start wanting to keep things exactly as they
So
are.
it's that importance of that continuation of learning, whether that's through life experiences, whether that's through further study.
Yeah. And
but
being able to let go of what you've earned.
yeah,
That what is the point of creating something and working hard? You start off as a babe in the woods. So I don't know, you're going to do woodworking and you start off as a babe in the woods. You pick up a piece of wood, you have no idea what to do. And the first thing you make, nobody even knows what it is.
Yeah.
And then you learn. And so you have this burst of creation, and then you feel a bit low because you have to go off and do the study and take the time. And then you create something, you get inspiration again, and back and forth until you become a master woodworker. Yeah. So now you're this wonderful master woodworker. What's the point of being a master woodworker if you hoard everything you've created?
Yeah.
If you never pass your learning on, if you never become willing as the teacher to say, I want my student to surpass me, what's the point if the amazing, say, furniture that's created throughout the centuries, if that was hoarded and kept away? So it's really, really important to know that what you create to pass it on, because that allows flow and newness to constantly be circulating.
Yes. But then we've got the community aspect.
This is it. Here's your community of the Three of Cups. It's joy. This is what happens if you don't stagnate it. If you allow it to pass,
then we create this.
And it's a happy card. It's a joyous card. It's everybody's celebrating. They're like, you know what? We had a bright idea and then we ran with it. And then we kind of hit the doldrums about it and we weren't sure what to do. But we persevered and we got that spark of inspiration. Yeah. And wow, look at how it's bright. It's colorful. I mean, this is such a joyous card.
And then we've got along with that in the advice. So this is the hidden influences. This is the advice. And the advice, the Two of Cups, and I would say that is approach what you're doing with love.
Yes.
It's got to be the right thing for you.
Absolutely.
And those things that are right for you won't pass you by. They'll find you. It might not be as soon as you'd like, but they will find you. So it's that idea of
you know what? Trust the process.
Trust
the process. And like you said that at the beginning, that if you can't come up with a way to move forward or to make a decision, maybe you need to be still, because those things will come to you. Allow your emotions to settle, allow everything to be still, and find that love and the gratitude. I think gratitude is a very important word to bring into this. This to me is gratitude. Like, look at how the T is coming down from one into the two. It's joining them. They don't need to have their separate ways. They're both going into separate cups. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so there's always enough.
Here's your yin and yang. It's like you and I was just saying, you and I were coming at the cards from two different angles, which are they're both valid angles. And it's important to understand that there's always two of everything to create.
There will always be enough. We're very much told by society and the media, that there's not enough. We're in a place of lack. Where if we have something, that's depriving somebody else of something. And this is just that reminder that actually there's enough to go around. There's enough for everybody. If everybody did exactly what made them, I'm not going to say what they want, because we can't all sit forever on a desert island, because nothing would ever get done. But if we all have a life that we're really happy and we're really prosperous in, and we're really, sort of abundant, that's not depriving other people of that abundance.
No, it's not.
Because there's so much abundance out there. Unfortunately, a lot of the wealth is distributed between very few individuals. But technically there's enough out there for all of us, and the more we bring it into us, the more we're inspiring others to have that abundance as well, to have that belief that they can be abundant too.
And I also feel that when I look at the Two of Cups, the twos, I was just reading this piece that said it was Pythagoras who didn't believe that 1 and 2 were real numbers. The real number
Yeah.
started at 3
Yeah.
because they're the creation number. They're the
Mm.
triangle.
Yeah.
You need the base. And it got me thinking of that imagery. And I understand it, because if you think, if you didn't have this joining here, right, it would be 2 separate lines. So they'd each have their cups, they'd each have a thing pouring in separately,
Yeah.
and they'd be walking parallel to each other, looking at each other, but nothing was joining them. Whereas this is taking the idea and understanding that 2 ideas from one can exist in the same space.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be either or. That you can say, I can have a contradiction with you. One's a rabbit, one's a person. And
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
We can exist in the same space coming from this same idea. So again, it's
Yeah.
a coming together of the emotions. It's being able to look at your emotional base and go, do you know what? It's okay to feel angry and sad. Or sorry, angry and joyous. It's okay
Yeah.
to feel sad and happy. It's okay to have all of those things going, because they, like you were saying earlier, they don't stay. If you allow them, they flow. And this is very flowing.
It's about the flow, isn't it? And
It's
the
all
cups are
about
all
the
about
flow.
water.
Cups are about water and movement and understanding that this is a very balanced set of cards here.
Yes.
Your inner intuition, your hidden, and your external, it's balanced. It's, to me, this is gratitude. And gratitude brings a coming together.
And it's about joy as well. So sometimes if you don't know what to do, just do something that makes you happy.
Yeah. Oh, that's a big thing.
Go
I think.
out and do something that brings
Yeah.
you joy, especially if you're in a funk at that time.
Yes.
You know, what can you go out? How can you bring yourself out of those feelings?
Just in those moments. Just in those moments, what thing can you do, no matter how small it might seem? Is it, you know what? I've been dying to paint my toenails, and I'm going to go and I'm going to do that thing. Or I'm going to, I don't know, I'm going to clean out my fridge. I don't care.
I'm just going to walk around the block.
I'm going to go walk around the block. I'm just going to go outside and get some movement and some fresh air. And how important that is, because it gets you out of your head.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to catastrophize when we don't get out of our head.
Is so important in the cups, because like you say, if we stagnate, water stagnates if it stands still. Yeah. We need it to be flowing.
And you know how I see it is water, when it stands still and stagnates, water will rust the metal.
Yeah.
And when you become rusted in the metal,
especially if you leave that your thoughts and your emotions
circling
together, stagnating. Yeah. That's really going to cause
you've got the overthinking,
isn't it? Yeah. When you go into your head too much.
Yeah.
And that brings your emotions down, because you get anxious, you get depressed, you know.
Yeah.
It's so we need that movement, we need that celebration. You know, if you don't know what to do, get up and move about. Because
and you know what? I also think that maybe sometimes we need to go back to the beginning. So I find it interesting that we've got the beginning and the end. We've got the early, so almost the beginning of cups, and the end. And I think sometimes it's that when the problem seems too big or too insurmountable or too, you need to go back to the beginning. You need to go back to being an innocent with it and look at it with innocent eyes. Being the student again. Let's go back to the beginning. I mean, for me, this is pertinent because, as you and I have talked about, I've been reading, but I have not done enough formal learning for my taste. I need to do more formal learning, which is going back to the beginning. It's looking at the early day stuff again. It's rereading it all,
going back to basics with
it. Take all the knowledge that you've now accumulated, go back to the beginning, and let's start again and review and see how we now build. So the first house you built, great. It worked. It sufficed. It was fine. But you've learned along the way that, and we all say this when we learn things, we go, well, if I could go back and start again, I would do things differently.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea. Take that emotional maturity, go back to the beginning and find your gratitude and your joy. It got me thinking actually about, I've had my bike service to go riding again on my bicycle. And when I used to ride a lot, it got into that competitive edge of, you always had to have an app that tracked how far you went and what your cycle cadence was and how quick you did this journey, and like the Strava app that says, you know, well, this section you did this section in this speed.
It takes the enjoyment out of it, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I've stopped wearing my watch because I was constantly looking at how many steps I was doing when I was running. I'd be constantly looking, oh, can I go further?
Yeah.
Can I beat
Yeah.
my time?
Yeah.
Can I? And it totally took the pleasure out of doing it, because I was constantly pushing rather than doing it as a form of to clear my head. I was pushing and pushing and trying to push through those barriers. Whereas I find it really liberating not wearing it, because if I want to go for a run, not that I do very much these days because everything aches a bit too much. But I can just think one morning, do you know what? I'm just going to go for a run because I want to move a bit faster.
Your intuition has kicked in
Yeah.
and has said, I need this today.
Yeah.
Let's just do it for today. Let's not make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
And that's what I found with the bike. I thought, I don't want to know how far I cycled. I don't
Yeah.
want to know how fast I've gone.
I just
want the joy. When I was a kid, I got on my bike and I was gone for the day on my bike in the summer.
And you get back and you feel great.
It was just exploration. There was no purpose to it other than I'm going to leave my house. That was your intention. Your intention was simply, it's sunny. I don't have school. I want to go outside.
I want to go out, and if I'm on my bike, I can get further.
And you can get further. And you found yourself at someone's house, or you found yourself at the park, or you found yourself just riding aimlessly around, just looking at the world around you. And that it was that joy, and your emotions then become full of gratitude. They become central, they become settled. And how beautiful that is for creating.
And it allows you to then come to that place of contentment, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Because the 10 of Cups, I mean, we know it as the happy ever after card, but sometimes it's not, it's not about, what you've built. Sometimes it's just about how you're feeling. It's that feeling of contentment, that feeling of happiness.
And again, the happy ever after for me, as I've got older, it's a very toxic statement in my head
because
now.
You feel that I've reached that point and then I've got to stay there.
This is it. Like, it's almost like saying you've reached nirvana. Now, if you've reached nirvana and you've had some major ascension and you've won the enlightenment lottery, well, I'm jealous of you and well done. But for most of us, like, I've read this before, the idea of what happened to Cinderella after she and the Prince Charming were there. Like, what happened? So you wake up the next day after your wedding, everything's been wonderful, and now you're Mrs. Prince Charming. Well, now what do?
Yeah,
there's always a day after, isn't there?
You've got everything.
You've got everything. So what fulfills you now? Now, if you've got everything, you stagnate.
Prince Charming for 10 years is perfect for you, and then you wake up one morning and you think, I'm not really feeling this.
Yeah.
And he's probably feeling the same way. And real life has kicked in. That's not to say that everything should be a fairy tale, but real life has kicked in, and you're both living and just surviving.
Existing.
Yes. And maybe you could both be happier, not necessarily with other people, but not together.
And with some fresh air. And I mean, what happens? What happens if you go through a breakup? You go to the beginning again. That's what people say. People will stay in unhappy relationships because they go, I can't face starting all over again. And I understand that, because your battery is drained. Your battery has been drained by being in a stagnant situation for a very, very long time. And unfortunately, the only way you revive that battery is to get rid of the old one and put a new one in.
And we can take
start
that
again.
to different situations. We can say in a job that's become toxic,
absolutely.
And that need to look for a new
hobbies.
job.
You could have got, like, I've come across this before, which is why I'm not a great fan of joining clubs for things.
Because it becomes all encompassing, and you
then
have
it
those
splits
people
off as well, right?
Yeah,
it starts where you start with the
fractionate, and you've got splinter groups.
And at first you all come together with this great idea, and then this group over here says, well, this group here moves too slow for us, so we need to split off. And then before you know, but actually, instead of that being a negative, that really encompasses what we're talking about here. That's what happens in every cycle of creation and existence. It grows, and then the fruit of the branches split off, things droop down, the apples fall off the tree, everything hits the ground, it all drops down again, and it fractures, and then you start fresh again. Everything goes dormant for a while, everything rots down, the
And
nutrients go back into the roots, everything
the
goes
seeds are
and then
planted again. You know,
absolutely
the apple
the apples have been
decomposes.
scattered everywhere. It
Yeah,
all
we get
decomposes and you start again. So that when you reach this, it's not that you shouldn't enjoy it, it's not that you shouldn't
But
feel
it doesn't
joyous, but
have to be
understand it's not
forever.
an ending.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
a
a
life's a continuous.
it's a cycle.
And if we surrendered, if we look at this, I mean, we've talked about, you know, when we started this, it was about what to do when we feel stuck. And it's just that
Surrender to it.
Surrendering. There doesn't have to be an answer.
Yeah, that's yes.
So, and
that's
sometimes
true.
with a problem, there isn't necessarily an answer. And when somebody comes to you for advice, you don't necessarily have to give them a solution.
Yeah.
I think this is why, and I apologize in advance if I'm offending anybody, but sometimes with men, they always have to find a solution.
Yes.
And that's why and I'm not saying all men, but men do like to find a solution.
But it's the masculine energy. The masculine energy wants a solution.
Yeah. And sometimes you just want to offload, shall we say. Sometimes people just want to tell you. I get this with readings. They're not actually listening to what I'm saying to them.
Yeah.
They just want to tell me. They just want to offload.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they'll go away and say, thank you so much for that. I feel so much better. And I think, well, I have given you some advice, but I know you haven't taken it in because you're saying exactly the same thing, but you maybe just feel better because you've offloaded it to me.
Well, that energy, and I think that can be a really powerful position to be in. It's a really positive position to be in because you can't take advice or information in if you're already full. If your nervous system has no more bandwidth to process any stimulus, you can't take anything else in. So in Chinese medicine, we say the heart houses the mind. Okay. The heart is the Shen. It is connected to the ether. It's connected to the spirit. It houses the great creation of the mind and the ideas, the ephemeral. Yeah. If the heart is injured, if you're carrying pain and your heart hurts, and any of the other organ systems can injure the heart. Yeah. The heart is involved in all of it because it processes, it is the emperor, it processes everything. When the heart becomes injured and tired, your mind gets tired. Your mind gets misty. We call it phlegm misting the mind. Your mind is not clear. So people are saying things to you. You're seeing their lips move. The noise is coming at you,
but it is not penetrating that in.
It is not penetrating that miasma that is in your head. And because you're so full up of all of this suppressed energy. And so what you need to do is unload it, keep unloading it until you don't want to hear yourself say those words anymore, until you're like, I am so sick of hearing my voice on this. Now you're clearing your head. Now when somebody then goes, okay, how about this? You can then hear it and go, oh, that's great. And we get frustrated. Like, I think I don't have children, but I'm sure you can attest to this with having kids, is that, I hear this from so many parents. Why is it that I tell you 15 times to do something and you don't listen, but when that other person over there comes and says it to you, you do it instantly and you take it on board?
Because you're so used to hearing me say
it's
these
misting
things.
them. It's so it's got no form anymore. It just is floating in the air. But when some fresh air comes in and somebody completely new grabs your attention, they cut through that, and it's like, oh, it's like
either that or because I think I'm quite calm most of the time. I think, and I'll say, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And then I think we were talking about this earlier on. I don't think we'd started the recording, and then somebody will say, like, and it'll just be like the final straw, and it'll be like, and I'll go, oh, for goodness sake, and they all look at me and go, oh, but they all take it on board. But it's that difference in tone and the way I've said it. I think sometimes my voice just becomes like that background thing, and then
and then you find that deep voice and you get that shock value
where
people go, whoa, where did that come from? But this is the thing, is that when that energy is allowed to fester, it clouds, and then when it comes up in this rage. And so I find for people, if people even if they don't take on the advice that you give them in the reading,
They're
they're
unburdening.
unburdening, and that is helping them anyway. Because what may happen, and this is always my hope, is that they go away and it might be 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years later. Because I've done this, I've had readings done for me where at the time there's been maybe one thing they've said that's made me go, yeah, I've clocked that. Not really interested in it, but I've clocked it for some reason. And then, like
it's
3 years
come up.
down later, I'll go, "Do you know, I had that said to me in a reading, and I understand now what that was meaning." Because at the time, my mind was so caught up in everything else that I wasn't clear to be able to hear that
And
that
I think
advice.
sometimes it's not necessarily what you want to hear at the time.
No,
is it?
it's not.
You
It's
know,
it's this in you,
Yeah.
in yourself when you're blocked. And there is a part of you that is saying, I know I need to hear this, but I don't have the energy right now to process the change it's going to require for me to take that on board. I don't want to do it yet. And you know what? That's okay. This is where I think the third eye comes in. This is where your intuition and balance come together. When you're able to be honest and say, I know what you're telling me is right. And I know at some point I'm going to have to do that. But right now, in this moment, in my
I just
incarnation
need
as I
to-
am, I can't.
I just need to be
I
with
need to be
still.
with where I
I
am
need
now.
to surrender to
I need
what
to,
is.
but that takes so much guts. Surrendering takes guts because surrendering initially feels like it's vulnerable. When you surrender, it's like all of that fight that kept you alive, that's kept you moving in your life. You suddenly turn to that part of yourself and go, do you know what? Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
But I don't really need this because it's not worked for me.
Yeah.
And that is an entire section of your inner identity that's basically being told, could you get up on the shelf for a while?
Yeah.
That's a heck of a shift.
And it's also that opening up to then the possibility of what is there. So it's like, I don't have the answers at the moment. I don't know what I should be doing. But whatever you believe in, I'm open to it.
Yeah.
You
Send
know,
me your information. Let me
help
download
me.
it. Yes.
Help me.
Yeah. And that it might not come in the answers you think, which is why you have to be open to just taking in everything so that you're able to filter. I think of it like everything pours into this little sieve with muslin, and you drain through what you need, and there's going to be an awful lot of stuff that's left over,
We're going to look at the oracle card.
So
and then
we're going to just see where we. Oh, hang on. That was.
And it's funny.
Oh wow!
Stillness.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Couldn't get a better answer than that.
I was just going to say about this actually. Sometimes we decide that we're going to surrender.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's
forced
to surrender. And this fits in with the stillness as well.
Yeah.
We can go with it. We can be still because we all know with water it's the depth. We're not aware of the depth when we look at the surface.
Yeah.
And we're not aware of everything that's going on under the surface. So sometimes we're being forced to be still.
Yes. Yeah.
And sometimes we're choosing to be still.
And so maybe the whole idea of are you feeling stuck isn't actually, if you surrender to it, being stuck at all. It's simply being still.
Yeah.
It's just saying, well, I could say that I'm stuck in this place. And you are. Again, this is my whole thing about contradictions can exist in the same space. You could be you go into a public loo and you shut the door and then you're stuck in the loo and it won't open. Now, on one hand, you're stuck. Yeah, you are. And but those words are panic inducing. They feel claustrophobic. They feel terrifying. They feel awful. Or you can say, well, I've got a chance to be still right now. I'm going to choose to view it as stillness. Both things exist.
Yeah.
Both things are right. One is going to lead you to panic and fear and resistance and horror and exhaustion. The other one is going to lead you to just recharging and being still and saying, I'm just going to sit and be still. But surrendering to that is very difficult because we are always working with the fight.
And maybe looking at it as well as the fact of maybe a change, not necessarily in direction, but in being, shall we say. So we could get into the lake and we could swim across it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And we're going in a direction, we're moving, we're going to view somewhere else. What if we went down?
Yes. Yeah.
Now we know that without aid that we can't stay down there for too long, because obviously we need to come to the surface to breathe. But if we go down and we see what's there,
yeah,
what's there, why do we need to go down there?
Yeah. Do you know what it almost becomes? It becomes the Hanged Man.
Yeah.
Because it's another world under the water, isn't it?
It is.
You go down, and anybody who's been in the water, whether it's in a pool or in a lake or in the ocean, if you go underneath and then look up, float down and look up,
bizarre.
It's bizarre, right? The light looks different. Everything hits the water different. It's just another world, and it's looking up at the world from a different angle, but from an angle of depth. Yeah. Like you said, what if
going
you go
within,
down?
Yeah. Rather than what's surface level, what's deep down there,
But again, it takes a lot of courage, and I applaud anybody who does it, because going into, I mean, the water, of course, is the subconscious, isn't it? It's the unconscious. It's the back there stuff that the ego isn't involved in. That's huge, right? And it can bring up an awful lot, and people should be applauded for having the courage to start delving into that and exploring it, because it will bring parts of you up that you couldn't have even imagined existed, and it will upend your world, but it can be a good thing. Yes. It's part of this idea of beginnings and endings, and maybe if you look at it on a larger, a worldwide scale, at the moment there's so much yelling and screaming, there's so much saber rattling and finger pointing and sides being drawn and lines being drawn, and maybe as individuals, because I do believe we have power in the collective consciousness if we take time to do it, maybe as individuals we're being asked to go deeper, to go in and really re-examine what it is we've got, because it seems like an awful lot of people right now whose parents, grandparents fought against something, their offspring are turning to the thing that the parents fought against. And I'm not going to get into a big political thing here, but in general, we're seeing this. So we're seeing people, for example, there's a certain former celebrity who has decided to join ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And this person's history was one of family that were in internment camps. And so you look at this and go, well, they went through what you are now joining and supporting. Why would you do that?
They're changing the narrative, aren't they, on the history? It's like the
1, the 2 to the 3. So you had one generation went through this, the other generation looks for the exact opposite of what you fought against. And maybe slowly but surely, if we all stop and start going deep in, we can reevaluate and understand that was awful, this is awful. What do we do for the third choice? Out of those two awfulnesses, how do we create something positive that's going to be beneficial for us as individuals and as a group?
Yes.
And if we don't stop and step away from the miasma of stimulus that is thrown at us 24 hours a day, how do we ever get quiet enough to hear that?
I think that's it, isn't it? Because there's so many distractions.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very
clever,
and I
think they're deliberate.
It?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's I know in this country, when not just this government, but past governments, when they're, going to release something, they cause
havoc and then slip it in, don't they?
Slip it in, something that you're not going to like, or they wait till there's, some kind of disaster that's happened, or some celebrity's done something, that everybody's talking about, and then they just slide it in and
into page 4 or page 5, and they can say, well, we did tell you it was released, but nobody's seen it. And I do think we're being asked to grow up consciously. I think our consciousness is surrender to some stillness, because the world is very chaotic and
Yeah.
too much movement right now. There's too much yang. We need to be
There's too
bringing
much
some
of
yin
this
in.
as
There's
well.
too much of this going on.
You
There's
know.
too much destruction. There's too much mental destruction.
Mm.
There's a lot of mental self-flagellation going on for a
Yeah.
lot of, in fact, daily. You know, I mean, I have it. We all have it. I'll get up
Yeah.
some days and I feel fat. I feel
Mm.
bloated. I feel ugh. And whatever I put on that day feels gross and I don't like it. And none of my clothes fit right and everything feels yucky and awful. And I just feel like I just don't, I want to get back into bed. Do you know what I mean? And you get lost in that and the world feels destructive with it. And you then flick on your phone or your tablet or your computer or whatever it is, and it's a world telling you, yeah, well, you know what, you're right to feel like that because you don't have a six-pack and you're not,
you
this,
can
and
get
you're not
one
that.
with
But you can get one if you buy this
if
stuff.
you buy this stuff,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
you dedicate your time to just constantly working out and
that you're never
starving
good
yourself.
enough. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean,
and
I
so
think
we then self-flagellate. We tell ourselves, why do I look like this? How have I let myself go? When did I get to this point? Why am I? And it's a constant critique of our inner world, instead of just going, and I'm trying to do this. I'm not successful at it yet, but I'm trying to bring this gratitude in, where when I'm walking around, this is a big thing. It's small, but it's big. I'm trying to not hold my tummy in. I'm trying to walk around.
I think it's something we automatically do.
We are taught to do it. We are taught to suck our gut in and walk around, and it affects your breathing.
Yeah.
So therefore, it affects whether your
stomach.
Calm.
You should be breathing into your stomach, so your stomach
Your
should be
diaphragm.
you should be expanding.
Yeah.
Every time you inhale, because you're taking in that.
The diaphragm,
but
that muscle should be moving all the time, but we restrict it. We hold it in, and it's made me aware of how that's impacted how I feel, because it impacts how I breathe, and it impacts how relaxed my musculature is and my sinews are. But this is what you come up against. So when I'm then out in public, and like today, I've got this jumpsuit on, and if I feel that when I let my stomach go, that I just look like this amorphous, enormous blob of jelly waddling down the street, that people are laughing and looking at me. Now, that is not happening. That is my ego telling me that, because it has been informed for generations, well, for decades. I shouldn't say generations, for decades. It's been told that if you want to be respected and looked at with love, you have to look like this. Yeah. And if you don't, and you let your belly out, people are going to be scoffing and laughing at you, because we grew up hearing people get laughed at. People in films and movies, it was okay to laugh at somebody who was overweight. We make fun of them because they're clearly lazy. They're clearly less than, because if they weren't, they wouldn't eat the way they do. They would exercise more. They'd look like we do. And because they don't, they're bad. And that has infiltrated us. Even though cognitively we can tell you why that's wrong, it infiltrates in the background, and you start finding yourself doing it. So at this stage of my life,
we all have it ingrained.
We have it ingrained. And at this stage of my life, I went, okay, this is your job right now. You're going to try and let this go. You're going to walk around, and you're going to stop holding your gut in, and you're going to relax when you're out in public. You're going to let your shoulders drop. You're going to let your breath be full from your deep in your abdomen. And I'm trying, but boy, my ego kicks in and goes, oh my God, you look like a fat, what are you doing, you whale? Stop
but we
it.
need to
surrender. We need to get
out
of that
place where I think as well, acceptance.
Yes.
Within that stillness, we find that, or within that surrender, probably the better word, we find that acceptance.
Yeah. And gratitude plays a big part in that, of saying, so what I've been saying to myself when my ego kicks in is, but aren't you lucky that that's your concern?
Yes, that you have
so much food around you
that you can technically overeat, overindulge.
How lucky am I that that's the world I live in? Because right now there are people starving who would kill to have my life.
Yeah.
And how lucky am I? So instead of constantly telling myself why I should look differently, I'm trying to tell myself, do you know what? It's not that it gives you carte blanche to just hurt yourself, but it does say, why don't you be thankful of the way you are and where you're living? And maybe through that, you then start having freshness comes in that revitalizes you.
And again, that's very much hanged man energy.
It's hanged man
isn't it?
energy.
Because it's looking at things through the eyes of somebody else from a different perspective.
Absolutely.
And I think that allows us to really appreciate ourselves and sort of everything that we've got.
This has been
I
lovely.
love
Do you know
it.
what I love? I love the fact that you and I sat down today to do this reading
Having
and had no idea. And both of us had been trying. This was the whole thing about being stuck.
It's
I
about
had been doing my
forcing it.
meditation and going, what really do we need to read on? What is calling us to do this? Why are we doing this? And I couldn't come up with an answer. I had no idea.
I must admit, I thought about it for about 5 minutes and thought, do you know what? We'll think of something.
Well, and you were right. You were absolutely right, because we've just allowed it to flow, and look at what it's brought us to. And I love it. And I hope that anybody who is listening to this now or in the future, whatever, I hope you found some, I don't know, a kernel of truth for you that is going to spark something in you that's going to allow you. And if you're at an ending of things, to find the courage to let go, because the beginnings they're always there. They're inevitable. They won't go past you. The beginning will come again. And if we do it with some gratitude, you're going to come to a beginning and it's going to be joyful.
Yeah.
With a bit of surrender and a bit of gratitude, your cycles won't be full of destruction and mental terror. They will be one of balance and stillness. And may the sun always be on your back, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, so to the Soul Salon.
Thank you. Thank you, 8 Red Trees.
You're very welcome, my dear. This has been lovely. And we will we'll be doing another video in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So we hope you enjoy this and be well.
Yes. And like and subscribe.
Oh, yes. And like and subscribe.
Please.
Please. If you would
we
be
would
so
be
kind.
very grateful.
We would be very grateful. Right, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.